Chapter 4 of The Boy Scouts in Front of Warsaw. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Felix Johnson. The Boy Scouts in Front of Warsaw, or In the Wake of War, by George Durston. Chapter 4. Hot on the Trail. The men had disappeared, and there seemed no further need for caution. As Warren approached nearer, he noted the dark, tumble-down building, which looked as though it had been a ruin for centuries, dismal and uninhabited. Only one thing was noteworthy. The door, a stout one, heavily barred with ornamental straps of ancient and rusty iron, was fitted with strong, modern hinges and had been closely fitted in a new frame. Warren's keen eye quickly grasped these details as he sauntered past and stopped before the building, but what he did not see and could not guess was the tiny auger hole bored close to one of the iron frets. Behind that hole stood a man in whose cunning brain suspicion lurked, and Warren did not know that after that close scrutiny the trained eye of one of the basest murderers and criminals in Poland would now recognize him, no matter where they met. Warren knew that he must gain access to the den, but how? Thinking rapidly, he resolved to wait until the men again left the place, when he would rap at the door and try to get in on whatever excuse he might need to invent when the moment arrived. He crossed the street and entered an abandoned building. For 2 hours he waited in biding, never suspecting the anxious scrutiny he himself was undergoing. His wristwatch told him that noon was past. There was no sign of life in the street. Remembering the loads of provisions that the men had carried, he decided that they did not intend to come out of their hiding place until nightfall. That would give him time to return, report to the anxious watchers at home, and consult with Ivan and the other Boy Scouts. With Warren, to decide was to act. He hurried through the shattered streets, wondering what the careful Evelyn had kept for him to eat. As he turned the corner, he saw before the house a group of people who seemed to be regarding it curiously. Warren hastened his steps. Pushing through the group, he entered. The door, torn from its hinges, swung against the wall. In the hall, a heavy chest of drawers was overturned, and the drawers piled together on the floor. The contents were scattered everywhere. Calling the names of the family, Warren dashed through the rooms, vainly hoping to find some trace of his people or some explanation of the new disaster. Returning to the door, he appealed to the bystanders. What had happened? They told him that they had come down the street just in time to see the soldiers leading off a group of people. More than that they did not know. They supposed that they were now dead. It was what happened in war. Warren returned to the house, his head whirling. This seemed the last and most crushing blow. To have such a thing happen just as he was about to rescue his little sister and reunite the family. He could not imagine why this thing should have been done. Why would any soldiers molest American citizens? Utterly overcome, he sank down in a chair by the window and leaned his head on the sill. All gone. He did not know what to do. His quick and clever brain for the moment refused to act. He raised his head and looked dully out into the street where the group of curious people was slowly moving away. For a long time he stared. Then his eyes suddenly set themselves on something nearer. Dumbfounded, unbelieving, he glared. It seemed that he could hear Evelyn's voice, Evelyn's own words. If anyone kidnapped me, she had said, I think if I had my diamond on, I would try to scratch a message on the window pane. Indeed, her mother's ring had served her well. Before Warren's eyes, on the glass, Evelyn had left her message. Arrested as spies. Act Dad's book. Taken to camp. Find Ivan. Tell Consul. Help. Clutching the arms of his chair, Warren sat staring at the message on the window pane. He read it over and over. A curious feeling that his eyes were tricking him possessed him. He reached out and rubbed the message slowly, fully expecting it to disappear. The letters felt rough under his fingers. It was really written there with Evelyn's diamond. Still unbelief possessed him. How had it happened that she had foreseen this dreadful mischance clearly enough, in some mysterious way, to plan the delivery of the saving message? As Warren looked, the events of the last few crowded days seemed to rise up and bear him down under their horror and immensity. He sat clutching the arms of his chair, and with unseeing eyes stared and stared at the letters. All at once he felt very young, very helpless, very lonely. America, his own dear country, with its safety and its careless, unthinking, haphazard hospitality for every living person who seeks her shores, America seemed suddenly to be set farther than the farthest star. Like most American boys, Warren was clever, shrewd, and ingenious. Life with Professor Morris had trained him in ingenuity and efficiency. Since his earliest remembrance, it had fallen to his lot to act as the head of his family, making decisions that are usually the sole right of fathers and guardians. But now, under conditions of horror and tragedy, he realized that he was after all only a boy, and the thought came to him that he and his, dear and infinitely precious as they were to each other, counted not at all in the great tragedy of war. Who was there to help? The American consul was powerless for the time, if he could be found. Warren knew that the portion of the city where he had lived was a shapeless ruin. The boy continued to sit motionless in his chair, desperately puzzling the dark mystery. Gradually, in Warren's dazed mind, the whole affair took definite shape. They were gone, arrested on suspicion. For the moment at least, he felt sure they were safe, even in the hands of an enemy who had shown themselves utterly cruel and heartless. He felt sure that if they were suspected of being spies, every effort would be made to make them confess before they were executed, if it did indeed come near that question. But find Ivan? What did that mean? Evidently Ivan was not with them. As though in answer to his thought, Warren heard, or thought he heard, a faint shout. He listened. It was repeated, with a sound of pounding and banging. Once more Warren searched the house, beginning with the old dusty rambling attic set close under the great beams of the old house. Down he hurried, from room to room, looking in presses, under beds, and listening in each room. As he reached the kitchen, the sound seemed clearer. It was Ivan's voice. He opened the cellar stairs and went down. Once, years, even generations past, the house had been the residence of a noble. The cellar was not the 1 or 2 rooms of the modern house. It was vast and vaulted and contained a dozen dark, unlighted apartments, all with heavy, iron-barred, oaken doors. Professor Morris said that 2 of the rooms had been used as dungeons, and it was in one of those that Warren found Ivan. He stumbled over him as he opened the door. The boy was bound, but lying on his back, so had been able to hammer on the door with his feet. The sound of pounding had carried even better than his shouts. Warren hastily untied the cords that secured him and helped him up the stairs. He was stiff and sore from the cramped position, but once in the upper rooms he took a deep breath and proceeded to tell Warren the events of the morning. Once more, Professor Morris was the cause of the disaster. The professor was, fortunately, of uncommon type. He was a modest man, so modest that it even ceased to be a virtue and became an annoying and irritating trait. He never stood up for himself, nor for his family in any way. The saying, generous to a fault, likewise applied to him. He was a spendthrift in kindness, giving not only money needed for himself and the children, but bestowing his time, when he needed it, himself. His learning he gave recklessly, too, writing long, learned articles for little or no pay, and without a thought that the material given away was just so much capital. But of one thing he was jealous, careful, and touchy. His book, his almost completed work on Warsaw. It was to be a book of books, so clear, so accurate, so full of new facts, that it would be a treasure among the literary treasures of his time. Professor Morris believed in the book with the conviction that comes to writers when they have done something really good. He knew it was fine. It was more than a history of the beautiful and fated city. It was written in such golden, flowing English that the hardest and driest facts in its pages were polished and placed like jewels of great price in their descriptive setting, and they were jewels. He had mined them out of strange places in that ancient town. He had taken his time, and in digging for his beloved facts, he had found many an unexpected wonder. Knowing his father as he did, Warren could see the story told by Ivan as plainly as though he had been present. One thing made him smile as he recalled it. His father would not use a typewriter, and anything written in his strange, cramped hand would look suspicious at once. And he knew, too, that his father would resent even the touch of strangers on the beloved pages. He smiled a little bitterly. "Go on, Ivan," he said. "Let's hear it all." "A detachment of soldiers came down the street," said Ivan, rubbing his lame muscles, "and as they came, they looked through every house. I suppose they were on the lookout for troops of our soldiers. When they reached this place, your father met them at door and talked a moment with the officer in charge. Of course, Evelyn and I did not know what they said, but the officer grew angry, and your father just stood there and smiled and shook his head. Then Evelyn went to your father, and as soon as the officer saw her, he bowed very low and in English said, 'Pretty, pretty.' Evelyn came back to us and took the baby from Jack. Then the door slammed, and we heard the big bolt fall, and your father dragged that big chest across it and came in, pleased as could be. He said, 'There, I have settled that. Such impertinence! They wanted to search my house.' But at that, blows fell on the door, and presently it fell, and the soldiers rushed in. Your father had his book and was trying to hide it in the lining of a chair. Of course, they at once thought it must be plans or something of the sort, and Professor would not tell them a thing, and we couldn't because we could not make them understand that it was just a book about the history of Warsaw. When they took it from your father, of course he resisted, and that settled the matter. We had to go to the headquarters. Of course, your father would have followed his book wherever that went. As we started, the officer took Evelyn by the arm, and I think I hit him pretty hard for it. Anyway, he gave a command, and a dozen big fellows took me and tied me up and carried me down here. It is a good thing you came, Warren." He shuddered as he thought of the possible ending that his adventure might have had. Warren was deep in thought. One event pressed so closely on another that things lost their significance and importance. "We have got to get a hustle on now," he said. "Your American hustle on. That means act quickly, does it not?" said Ivan. "We must indeed hustle on. Let us find where they are, and then apply to your consul." "That's all right," said Warren, "but I don't think they are in any immediate danger, and I think the first thing to do is to get hold of Eleanor." "Get hold of her," said Ivan. "Do you know where she is?" "Yes, I think I have found her," said Warren, and commencing at the moment when the boys parted on the street, he gave Ivan an account of the morning's discoveries. "Good, good," said Ivan. "We will go together this time, and together we will rescue our pretty little Eleanor. Have you made any plans?" "No, I haven't," confessed Warren. "I don't know what ails me. I seem to be perfectly brainless today. It looks like I am losing everybody that belongs to me." Ivan shrugged his shoulders. "Look at me," he said. "My mother long dead, my father somewhere on the field of battle, or lying dead in the trenches, I do not know. But I must not think. What I want to do is to save Professor Morris, my second father, and Evelyn and Jack and Eleanor, who are as sisters and brother to me. Let us start and plan as we go." "Have you any money?" asked Warren. "I have not a single copper." "Nor I," said Ivan. "We ought to have some," said Warren. "We might have to bribe those people." Ivan laughed and felt down his blouse. "This might help," he said. "I hate to give the small one up. It has been in the family, always worn by the eldest son, for more generations than I know. But if we have to give it, it will come back. It always has." He offered Warren 2 rings, magnificent jewels. Warren shook his head. "I hope we won't have to use them," he said. "What of that?" said Ivan. "Jewels, even family jewels, do not count for much beside the dear ones." "Ah, Warren," said Ivan, "it is hard for boys to talk, even here in Poland, where it is easier to say what is in one's heart than it seems to be with you Americans. But let me tell you now all that I think. We do not know what we may get into today, what peril, maybe death. I feel danger approaching. I cannot say how. All the people of my house have been able to foresee disaster. What it is I know not. So I will say that so long as I do live, I will never cease to love you and yours. I want you to take this ring that we have held so long, and if we are parted, wear it for the sake of Prince Ivan of Poland." Warren swallowed hastily. "Same here," he said. "You know darned well I'm strong for you, old Ivy Scout." He felt hastily in all his pockets. "Haven't a thing to swap," he continued. "Not a—" He drew out his hand with something in it. "Guess this will have to do," he said. "It's a buffalo nickel, but I brought it from home. You can have it." "Thank you so much. I will always keep it," said Ivan. It was so. Years later, if Warren could have looked into the future, he would have seen a magnificent figure at court, one decoration on his jeweled breast being a coin around which sparkled a double row of priceless diamonds. The coin was only a nickel, but that mattered not to Prince Ivan. As the boys approached the street where Ivan had located the house of the thieves, they decided to hide for a little in the ruins across the street and watch for a while in the hope that the door might open or the 2 men come out. They made the approach one at a time and settled down for a long wait. An hour or more went by, and all at once Warren stuck out a long leg and noiselessly kicked Ivan. The oaken door across the street was ajar, just a crack, and for a long time it remained so while the boys scarcely breathed. It opened slowly, and the 2 men came cautiously out. They did not glance across the street, but looking carefully up and down the crooked alley, closed the door carelessly and went off at a brisk gait without a glance behind. The boys looked at each other. "Now," said Ivan. "Wait," answered Warren. "Give them time. No doubt they will be gone most of the night." There was a long silence. Then, glancing at his watch, Warren said, "Come, do you see that door? They did not latch it. I don't believe there is a soul over there but the woman. There is just one thing to do. Go over and look in, and if she is alone we will rush her, tie her up, and get off with the children. We can do it." "That's the only thing to do," said Ivan. "Let's go." The street was deserted as they crossed it and stepped close to the oaken door. It was ajar, and they could see the interior of the dark prison-like room. The woman was there, bending over a pot that swung on a crane in the fireplace. A heap of filthy rags was in a corner nearby, and lying there was little Eleanor and the strange child Rika. A sob rose in Warren's throat as he saw his sister, so pale and thin and terrified she looked. She saw Ivan's breath come sharply. "Let's rush," he said. "You can't," answered Ivan. "Don't you see the chain on the inside of the door?" "It's light. We can break that," answered Warren. "Get yourself together. When I say 3, throw your whole weight. Grab the woman as quickly as you can." "All right," said Ivan. Warren stepped back a space and held himself for a spring. 1, 2, he counted slowly. 3 was never uttered. He heard a strange cry from Ivan, and as he did so, a frightful blow from some heavy, blunt instrument struck him squarely. He crumpled down unconscious. Ivan, behind him, evaded the blow aimed at his head by the second ruffian, and quick as a panther stood back to the wall, gazing at his assailant. "Hands down," said the man, grinning evilly. "Hands down before I brain you." "What do you want with us?" demanded Ivan. The man laughed. "What would we want of eavesdroppers and spies? This is our house, poor as it is. We will guard it when young thieves like you come peering in the cracks. What did you think to steal of honest men as poor as yourselves? Your friend here deserves his broken head. Must I give you one, or will you come with me peaceably?" "I'll come if you will tell me what you are going to do with us," said Ivan. Again the man laughed, and with his foot shoved the body of Warren lying motionless on the ground. "Come on," said the other man. "Why waste words? Get hold of him and bring him along." "Let me have my way," said the man standing over Ivan. "This amuses me. Come, come, young one, what will you? Obedience or a broken head?" Ivan was silent. Then he spoke. "I won't fight you," he said. "You are too big, but I won't go in that door with you." "So," said the man. "Then we do it in this fashion." He made a rush at Ivan, and seizing him in his arms, held him until the other man lifted Warren, and so, half carrying and half dragging Ivan, he followed through the dungeon-like doorway into the gloom and chill of the great room beyond. End of Chapter 4. Recording by Felix Johnson.